こんにちは。私はアンドリューです。これは日本語のレッスン2です。Hiragana. Hi everyone, this is Andrew again. Today we'll be doing lesson 2 in my Japanese tutorial series, Hiragana. Now, Hiragana is a Japanese syllabary. It's not too dissimilar to an alphabet, except that each character only represents a single sound or a single syllable. You might sometimes hear it referred to as a mora. So the key point is that each character only has a single sound and it doesn't change. It's always pronounced that way, in general. Okay, let's get started. So there are 5 vowel sounds in Japanese, and these are a, I, U, E, and O. So a, I, U, E, O. Okay, so that's the first row in hiragana. Now, every row thereafter basically puts a consonant sound in front of that, in front of this. So in front of each of these, there's going to be a different consonant sound. So the next row is ka, ki, ku, ke, and ko. So a, I, U, E, O, and ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. Okay, now there's something called a dakuten. Now a dakuten is, it's basically a way to change the pronunciation. So we'll go back to ka, ki, ku, ke, ko. So there's ka. Now, if we put a dakuten, which is often referred to as a ten-ten. Ten-ten just means like ... or something. And it looks like that. So that symbol is pronounced ga. So ka becomes ga. Gi. Gu. Ge. Oops, I wrote ke. Ge. And go. So Nihongo, Japanese, ends in this sound, go. Ends in go. Okay, next row is, oops, sa. Sa. Now here's an exception to pronunciation. It's not pronounced si, it's pronounced shi. So it's often written like that in Romaji. So shi. It's more of a shi sound than a si sound. So sa, shi, su, se, and finally so. Sa, shi, su, se, so. And as you may have guessed, you can actually change the sound of these by adding a ten-ten. So za, I'll just erase the first letter for each one. So this is za. Shi becomes ji. So za, ji, zu, ze, zo. Za, ji, zu, ze, zo. Okay. Next, the ta. The ta line. So that's ta. It kind of looks like ta, doesn't it? Ta. Here's another exception. Might just redo that. Ta, chi. So they don't say ti, they say chi. And we usually write that with a ch sound. So chi. And another exception in this row. Again, they don't say tu, they say tsu. It's kind of a ts sound. So the usual romaji is tsu, tsu. Ta, chi, tsu, te. To. Ta, chi, tsu, te, to. Okay. So we can modify that too using 10-10. So that becomes da. It goes to a D sound. Let me just erase that. Okay. So that's da. So ta goes to da. Chi goes to G. It's also a G sort of sound. Tsu goes to Z, so more of a Z sound. Te goes to de. To goes to do. Remember, this is not pronounced do, it's pronounced do. Z, de, do. So da, ji, z, de, do. Okay. Next row is the na row. Had a mind blank then. Why can't I get that? Na. Apologies. Na. What does na look like? Na. Yeah, that's it. Na. Ni. Nu. Nu. Na, ni, nu, ne, no. So na, ni, nu, ne, no. Okay. Next one is the ha row. So there's ha, he. Here's a slight exception. This is more of an F sound, so it's more like fu. Ha, he, fu. So I guess it's halfway between an H and an F, but it's more of an F. So ha, he, fu, he, he, ha. Now these can be modified with dakuten, so the 10-10, and handakuten. A handakuten is a circle. We'll do the 10-10 first. So there's ba, bi, bu, be, and bo. Now handakuten, often referred to as maru. Maru just means circle. So it literally looks like that. You put a circle next to it. So it becomes a P sound. So pa, oops, P, pu, pe, and finally po. So ha hi fu he ho, ba bi bu be bo, pa pi pu pe po. Great. Okay, next one is the ma. The ma line. So there's ma, mi, mu, me, and mo. Ma, mi, mu, me, mo. You cannot use dakuten on these ones. You can't do that. It doesn't mean anything, and it looks a bit weird to a native Japanese person. Okay, the next row, there's only 3. This is the ya line. There's ya, ya, you, ya, you, and yo. Ya, you, yo. They'll also be used later to modify the sounds a bit more. I'll get into that after though. So ya, you, yo. Just remember there is no yet and ye and yet. Traditionally there was, but I think they've just basically replaced it. In their language, they just use an e sound normal from the first row, a, e, u, l, e, and an e sound. So there is no, basically oops. You don't need to worry about them. Okay. The next row is the ra row. Ooh, put my color back. Ra, re, should be a bit longer there. I'll do re again. Ra, re, ru, re, ra, re, ru, re, re, and ro. Ra, re, ru, re, ro. You can see ru and ro look very similar, except ro is missing the circle bit at the end. Actually, I learnt this character by remembering that the robber took my ruby. So that's a ruby. That's a ruby there. And here, the robber took my ruby. Just a little mnemonic to try to remember the character. Okay. Now, there's another, the next row only has two characters. That's wa. I'll do that again. Wa, as in watashi. You know, the word for I is watashi. That's the starting syllable. Wa. And technically there's a wa, but I've never heard it pronounced wa. I'm not sure if it ever is. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's usually pronounced o. Just an o sound, and it's almost exclusively used as a particle, as an object marker. So we'll get into that later too, but just remember that it's an o sound, not a wa. An o sound. And there's one more. It's on a separate row, but I'll put it here. It's the n. The n sound. It's the only consonant only sort of sound. The n sound. I'll just do that again. Kind of looks like an N, doesn't it? the n sound. It always comes... No, that's not true. I was about to say it always comes at the end of, but that's not true. But yes, it's the only consonant-only sound, an n. And this is probably the only exception to the one character, one pronunciation rule. Occasionally this does sound a bit like an M. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but there is some cases where it sounds like an M. But if you always pronounced it like an N, you'd be completely understood. Nobody would fault you on it. Just with fluency, I guess, you know when to use it as an M sound. Some people say it can also sound a bit like this sort of sound, but I'm not quite sure when it sounds like that, an NG sound. But stick with this. Learn it as an N sound. So what's a sound? What's a word that's got N in it? I can only think of Osaka Ben. There's an Osaka Ben word, an Osaka dialect, which means bad, and it's akan. Akan. It ends in an N sound. Okay, great. Now, I mentioned earlier that ya, you, and yo can also be used to modify the sound of some of the letters, and I'll show you what that. I'll give you some examples. I'll probably show you the whole lot. So it's only used on some of the rows. It's not used for every row. So there is the ki, so the cut row, but it's only used for the e sound of it. So there's ki, and you can put a little ya next to it. It has to be little. It has to be about half the size, and that's pronounced kya. 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 Q. Kya. Q. Kyo. Kya, Q, Kyo. So Kyo you might recognize from the city name Kyoto. Kyoto. It starts with that sound. Okay. Now, just as we had dakuten for ki, like ki goes to gi, we can also do it for this one. So there's a, what do you think that sounds like? I'll write them first. You can try to hazard a guess what their sound is. Remember, ki goes to gi ordinarily. So this is a gya, gyo, sorry, gyu, and gyo. Gyak, gyu, gyo. Gyo, you might know from gyoza. Gyoza, the Japanese dumplings. So this is the start of gyoza. Gyudon. Have you heard of gyudon? It's like a Japanese beef dish. Gyudon. Maybe you can buy it in a Japanese store. It's like rice topped with pieces of beef, I think. I don't eat beef, but I'm aware of it. Gyudon. Okay. Next, there is sha. So the she row can also have this sha. It's usually written like that, sha. Sha. Shu. And oops, I'm sorry. Sha, shu, sho. Sha, shu, sho. And likewise, we can put ten on them. Dakuten. Can you guess what they... Remember, shi goes to ji. So what do you think these go to? Ja. ju, jo. Can you think of an example of ju, a common word that we use in English? If you're into martial arts, you'll probably have heard of judo. 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 It starts with Ju. Starts with this G, small U sound. Ju. Ja, ju, jo. Okay. After that is the ni, the na, so the ni, right? So there'll be nya, 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 new. That sounds like the Japanese, sorry, that sounds like the English word new, doesn't it? New, nya, new, nyo. I can't actually remember a word that has nyo. Oops. I can't remember a word that has nyo in it, but I'm sure there is one. Nyo. Okay, nya, nyu, nyo. It's kind of an odd sort of sound, isn't it? Nya, nyu, nyo. And the next one is the heat row. So there's hya, hya, hu, hya, hu, hyo, hya, hu, hyo, hya, hu, hyo. And likewise, because remember the he row, there is dakuten as well as handakuten. So there's ten as well as maru, the circles. So we'll do them now. So that's B ordinarily. B goes to bia. Bia. It's an odd sound too. Bu. So like as in the word, if you said beautiful, that's the sort of the sound for that one. Bu. Bia. Bu. Bio. Bia, bu, bio. And remember, he goes to P. He goes to P. What do you think this might sound like? Oops, I muffed up my 10 there. I should be putting a maru. Oops, wrong color. So that's pia, pu, and pyo. A lot of these are quite rare sounds. You don't often hear many words with these in them. I'm sure there's examples, but I'm not higher level enough to know to think of them off the top of my head, but they do exist. They definitely exist, I think. So remember we got hya, hu, hyo, bia, bu, bio, and pia, pu, pyo. Right. Next, there's the mi line. So mi, you can go, well, you can try to guess what it would sound like. Mi with a small u, and mi with a, looks like a 4, doesn't it? The more I write it, it looks like a 4. So that's a mia, mu, myo. And now the ri line, so that's ri as in ri, ri. What do you think that will sound like? Now these are a bit hard. For me, these were very hard to pronounce. I don't know why. It's a ria. Even now it's a bit tricky. Ryu. So in my name, Andoryu, this is the ryu that's in my name, Andoryu. And ryo. Ryo. It's hard for me. Now remember, these these should only take one syllable. So this, for example, should be a single syllable, mu. But when I'm saying ryo, it's hard for me to not say it using two syllables. But for Japanese people, they would say ryo in like one sort of thing, one sort of syllable. I'm almost there, but not quite. Rya, ryu, ryu, rya, rya, ryu, ryo. It's a bit tricky. I don't know why I can't get my tongue around it. But luckily when you're using words that contain these, you're saying it's fast enough where nobody, it sounds good enough. It sounds close enough. So andaryu sounds close enough to ryu. Okay. I believe that is it. I think we've come to the end of the hiragana lesson. Just remember, you basically need to know hiragana. So you need to know the 46 characters. And these added things, like adding a small ya and all that, you'll get used to them, I think. But yeah, you need to know the main characters. A, I, U, E, O, kaki, kuke, ko, sa, shi, su, se, so, and so on. You need to know them. Doesn't mean you need to know how to write them. You could get by just being able to read them, especially now that we use mobile phones and computers and the like. Even some Japanese people, I would suggest, are forgetting, they wouldn't be forgetting hiragana, but they'd definitely be forgetting some kanji. And I've witnessed it because they're so used to just writing on their mobile phones that they're not used to drawing them with a pencil or pen. And in Chinese, actually, it's a very common problem where people, like one of my friends was a dentist in Beijing, and he often forgot how to write kanji because he just simply doesn't write it anymore. So, yeah, as long as you know how to recognize hiragana, I think you'd be well on your way to mastering it. Okay, there's one more thing I just thought of. There's remember tsu? It's kind of a TSU sound. Tsu. They do use that. They do use a small tsu. So you know how with, for example, ki, we can put a small ya, and that's pronounced kya. Well, you can also put a small tsu next to something, and it changes. It's got a special function, a very special function. I'll try to think of an example. Minna is not one. I'll just make up one. It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's ri, and that's ka. Now, the small tsu in the middle, I'll just draw that again. The small tsu in the middle just doubles up the consonant sound that follows it. So, in this case, that ordinarily, for example, if I wrote that, that would be pronounced rika, rika. But when it's got a small tsu in the middle, it's pronounced rikka, rikka. So you're adding kind of a extra, like an extra space or whatever. So rikka, rika, rikka. Another example. Let me think of something. Oh, lesson. So the Japanese word for lesson, it's not written in hiragana, but I'll write in hiragana just so you can see. So it's re, small, su, lesson, su, and, sorry, I wrote in katakana. So that's ressun, ressun. If we wrote the romaji, it'd be re, su, ressun. So it's doubling up the S sound, the consonant sound. Okay, and that's it. So hopefully you can get through all that and learn your hiragana. I highly recommend it. Just as a guideline, when I first arrived in Japan, I realized straight away that I needed this. I needed it for everything, whether it's looking at menus or just pronunciation or whatever. I'd reckon in the first week, I pretty much could recognize all of them. I was coming home every day from work, practicing with my housemates. And after about 2 weeks, I could pretty much write all of them with a bit of practice. I was practicing all the time, though. Whenever I had spare time, I was practicing it. So I think if you really dedicated time to it, you could probably do very well in hiragana very quickly. But yes, you need to learn it. Okay, thank you. Cheers.